Hi everyone, Thomas here from 44 Wide, and today we're going to talk about how to get the sharpest image possible when shooting with a tripod. Now you might think all you got to do is throw your camera on that tripod, it's going to be nice and stable, and you're going to get a nice perfectly sharp shot, but that's not always the case. What you got to understand is there's a real critical zone between that sort of, let's call it about a quarter-second exposure up to about a second, where the tiniest bit of vibration, whether coming through the tripod or even just the shutter blades in the camera moving, can cause just enough blur in the image to take that critical sharpness off. And if you're making big prints like the one you see behind me here, you want it to be as sharp as it possibly can be. And there's a couple tips and techniques with the tripod that will help you get there. So we'll start with the tripod. The thing to remember is you want to use the heaviest tripod you possibly can. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to lug it around, I know, but the stability is really what you're after. So on that front, they make carbon fiber tripods like this one. They're fairly expensive. They've come down a little bit in price as of late though when I've been looking online. And the argument is it does a little bit better job absorbing sort of what they call fine frequency vibration than a comparable aluminum one. So that's something to consider. But if the carbon's not in your budget, it's not a showstopper, if you will. The one other thing though, let me just put this camera down, is most tripods come with these collars, and I'll see someone out in the field, you know, they're trying to get as high as they can, and they got it up like this. Well, you've just turned that tripod into a monopod at this part, and you're lacking stability. So for best results, again, in that critical sort of time zone of exposure that we talked about, you want to get that locked down, make sure your feet are as wide as possible and you're stable. Let me just grab this camera here. And throw this guy in. Okay. The few things. We want to use mirror lockup, and the reason for that on a tripod is just the mirror coming up can introduce enough vibration to kill that critical sharpness. And I like to go for at least, depending on the focal length of the lens I'm using, at least 3 or 4 seconds, and sometimes if you're using a telephoto, it could be as long as 7 or 8 seconds. Then the other thing that I do when I'm shooting on a tripod and we want to make sure it's as sharp as possible is using live view focusing. So let me just show you how that works here. This is a feature that most modern digital SLRs have and point-and-shoot cameras. So you can see here's my composition, and what we can do is zoom in on the image, and then by turning the focusing ring, we can see when we're exactly critically sharp. And that's really, really important for getting a good sharp landscape shot. And then, with my 5-second time delay on, we'll let it count down, make sure we're nowhere near the tripod, and then we get our shot. And like I said, this is all based around when you're sort of that dusk to dawn shooting, you're into that quarter-second to 1-second exposure range. You really want to give the camera a chance to settle down. Make sure it's as stable as possible, because these high-resolution cameras, when you're using good glass, it really shows off the tiniest mistakes. So I hope those help you get the sharpest shots you possibly can and make some big prints like this.